What is good, everybody? Welcome back to Joe Dropper Sports. I'm your host, Sean T. Stewart, and today we're talking about the Carolina Panthers 2026 offseason plan. Let's get it.
Lock my phone, put it back down, let's try it again in the morning, bro.
I don't want it to jeopardize how you know what I'm saying? Because you are saying.
I think we got the news that Tonka is staying. Thank God, finally some good news.
So the Carolina Panthers go into 2026 with a lot of hope and a lot of aspirations, and all of this starts with the fact that you ended 2025 as the NFC South champions, and you went into a playoff game against the NFL MVP, and you went toe-to-toe all the way until the very end. So there is reason for optimism here in Charlotte. Now, what we have to talk about is what is the plan of attack for how you improve in 2026? A lot of this has to do with the defense. As much as we talked about the defense last year and people weren't as happy with the Jiro Rivera at the end, what we have to admit is that his unit, if you look at the numbers and if you look at the tape, his unit was the more consistent unit in 2025, and they made huge strides from their abysmal 2024. Those are the facts. What is also factual is that there are improvements that can still be made in those rooms. You look at the edge rushing room. I'd say that DJ Wanham and Nick Gordon isn't the duo I want to hinge my hopes upon in order to get to the quarterback. DJ Wanham provided us nothing in terms of pass rushing production. I don't know what the PFF numbers say, and I won't be paying for it to figure it out either. From what I saw, he didn't give us anything. So you have to move on from him. Pat Jones, on the other hand, was a veteran signing that actually looked good in the early times that he was on the field for us before his injury. I believe getting him back, having him alongside Nick Gordon, having him alongside Princely, two guys that have potential. Nick Gordon obviously was the more consistent guy of the two. Princely, I believe, is a stronger pass rusher, but has to become a better overall defender in order to play in the Jiro Rivera system. Otherwise, he'll be relegated to pass rush scenarios and won't see much playing time. Now, the guy that instantly comes up when you talk about improving the edge rushing room is Bradley Chubb, a guy that is a little bit older, at a stage of his career where I don't think he's going to get a maximum deal in terms of multi-year, 3-4 years. I don't believe that's happening. I don't believe he's seeing $100 million ever again in his lifetime. But he is a guy that I could see getting paid between 14 to 17 million. A guy that could get paid for maybe about 2 seasons. That would be enough for the Carolina Panthers to continuously draft and develop players behind him in order to take over the reins and move this defense in the right direction. Bradley Chubb is the guy that I think of, and that has been the guy that has been rumored around the Carolina Panthers that is affordable and provides the versatility and productivity that I think that the Panthers will need going into 2026. Now, look at the linebacker room. The instant name that comes up is Devin Lloyd, because Devin Lloyd was one of the most productive backers in the NFL last season. Second team All-Pro, a guy that really blossomed in his 4th season, a guy that showed the ability to go get the ball back per interceptions. You know what I'm saying? You talk about a guy that's able to help you turn the football over, create extra possessions, a thing that the Panthers can desperately use more of here in 2026. He's a guy that will also be an instant upgrade in your linebacking room. You talk about a guy like Roseboom that you would have to bring back through free agency. Guys like Claude Sherrillis and Isaiah Simmons as well. Hey, how do you feel about those guys? See, I feel about Isaiah Simmons in a way that I feel that he can bring versatility in that room as well. A guy that's a good athlete. A guy that, to me, still has potential to be something, at least as a reserve, that I like him enough to bring him back. Devin Lloyd, having those two guys in the room, obviously I don't believe Simmons is starting for you, but I believe that if you flip the room around from having like Clyde Sherrillis and Christian Roseboom to Devin Lloyd and Isaiah Simmons, that I think you've gotten instantly better at that position in that room. Now, what position do you favor the most? Well, it all depends on how you see the NFL draft shaking out. What position do you feel like is the strongest in the draft, and what names do you feel like are being tied to your team? For me, I feel that the linebacking room is the stronger room. That seems to be the consensus from NFL guys from around the way, and that to me is what I feel the most comfortable with. If you talk about the edge room as far as the draft class goes, you talk about guys like Keldrick Falk that have been guys that have been rumored to the Carolina Panthers at 19. To me, is again, he is a Jiro Rivera type of edge rusher. isn't the strongest pass rusher, and I believe won't bring as much value to this team instantly as a guy like a Sonny Styles, of course. Now, Sonny Styles is one of those guys where you're gonna have to probably trade up to go get him. Understandable, has elite level talent, elite level athleticism, and elite level production as well. You talk about a guy that has a chance to be one of the best in the game, then you're talking about Sonny Styles for sure. Jacob Rodriguez is another one of those guys that have come up as well in terms of guys that you would consider at the 19 spot. A lot of people feel like that's a bit early to reach up for him, but things I can't ignore are your production and how it looks on film as well. Now, obviously, I'm not a film junkie. I also only have access to their highlights and not their all 22 tape. So the guys that do it are the guys that you may have to trust more on this one. But at least from what I saw a guy that plays with instincts in the ground game and is typically ahead of the curve. Now, this also leads to him getting beat sometimes and getting washed by blockers as well. Isn't the biggest guy, but also I think has solid athleticism. I thought he tested well at the combine, which to me makes him a more intriguing guy at that spot as well. You know, the more and more you think about it. Overall, when you talk about what Texas Tech was and how they got to where they were in the college football playoff and how they had the season that they had, Jacob Rodriguez is the stalwart for how that all happened, how that all went down. He was the reason. And I think for a guy that played the best football on one of the best defenses, he has to be considered. But, you know, again, I'm not hating that pick at 19. When I think it's a bit of a reach, I can see why people would say so. Especially when you have guys like Kenyon Sadiq at other positions as well. See, here's the thing. I'm not completely saying that the Panthers have to go defense in order to have a good draft here in 2026. I'm always going to be best player available after what happened last year, right? I got proven horribly wrong about Jalen Walker and Teteroa McMillan. So from here on out, I'm all for the guy that's going to help us out immensely. And if there's a guy that I believe can help us out instantly, with all I said about the defense, Kenyon Sadiq from the University of Oregon would be that guy. That's the guy that running a 4-3 at the tight end position helps you out of a position that you haven't had huge production with since Greg Olsen. So this has been a long time since we've seen great production from a tight end for the Carolina Panthers. I think obviously helps out Bryce Young, gives him another weapon to work with. A guy going into his 4th year that you're trying to figure out, is this guy the franchise? I think he earned another year, of course, but now it's consistency. Now it's continuous growth. And where it feels like he's at, it feels like he's on the precipice on being a top 15, top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. Where, you know, how do you continuously help him get there? By continuously adding more weapons. And that's why you can't ignore a guy like that as well. Then I look at other guys as well, and I'm just kind of spitballing here. A guy like Akeem Messidor. See, Akeem Messidor at the edge rusher position. See, this is the guy that has the productivity, but people don't feel like the athleticism is going to translate at the NFL level. But as far as right now, he's an older guy. So that's the biggest knock to him. He's an older guy, and he's been injury prone throughout his career. Do you want to take a risk on that in the first round? It's possible. It's possible, y'all. I can't sit there and say that there is no way that I wouldn't look his way. You talk about that Miami defense and what they did. The same way I just talked about Jacob Rodriguez, it's the same way I talk about Akeem Messidor. See, Akeem Messidor played alongside Ruben Bain. This was 2 of the best pass rushers in the class that we have. And to me, you talk about a guy that kind of has all of the skill sets already, right? So you would look at him as a guy and say, we need you to instantly be the improvement in the room that we think you can be. And if you don't think he can be that, and if you think that's too high of a risk to take for a guy that's been injury prone and is getting ready to be 25 before he plays his first NFL snap, then I completely understand. But he is a guy that I think you have to consider. Overall, I think the Carolina Panthers are in a great position in order to improve upon their 2025 season, but it's going to really all depend on what do you value in terms of free agency and the draft. And if as for me, it's always going to be best player available. So truth be told, we won't really have a great idea of what's going to happen until free agency begins. Once free agency begins, that'll change some of the draft needs that we see being rumored right now. That'll change the perspective of how you see the rest of the roster. And once that changes, we'll get a clearer view of what the NFL draft will look like for the Carolina Panthers. But until then, I'm your host, Shanti Stewart. This has been Junior Sports, and I'm out.